All right. Good morning, everyone, or evening for those in the US. This is Rangadad. Not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. We've been going pretty well with the getting a few things right lately. The weekend, I kind of expected a bit further down over the weekend, to be honest. And it kind of looks like on the shorter time frames we might be trying to base here, but we'll get into that in a second. As you can see, I've added an extra indicator down here, and the reason is I saw this on another video somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but basically the advanced decline line, and I think this is for the S&P 500, I believe. I put some EMAs on it, and what I noticed is this advanced decline line does give a pretty good indication of when you're going into a major downtrend when you're looking at it on the daily. And basically, I'll just show you, is the reason I'm spend a little bit of time on this. It's going to be pretty important for picking the actual downturn in the market, I think. Whenever you've seen it break the 200, there's been a major correction. So if we look here, this was 2023. first of all, you want to see it start to obviously the shorter moving average here. Once it crosses over, you tend to get a little bit more downside, and it can get pretty nasty once the two white moving averages are below the red. Okay. That just sort of seems to indicate that there's more to come. But if we're getting price bouncing and it never really got too low, should make this bigger, but it's a pain in the ass to move all my charts around. Sorry. So you can see here it's sort of bouncing away. It's advancing again before you get to the bottom, and the moving average is never crossed. Now, you do get some situations here where it's just completely sideways, but it tends to indicate pretty well that you're in a pretty decent downturn, and recovery of the ADX, the ADL above the moving averages, and both of them turning around is signs that you're going back into a decent run. So it's just a matter of when you're below these moving averages, when they start to cross, you just got to be a bit careful about taking longs. You can see here, once they crossed, be careful. Dead cat bounce. The moving averages never crossed. And then basically once they're all pointed to the upside again and the ADX line's above, that's your sign that you're actually coming out of it. I just found this quite a useful tool, particularly when you get into big bear markets. If we go, I think it even predicted, yeah, I mean, this would have been handy coming out of the COVID dip, but this is your 2018 dip. I want to go to the GFC. Which is probably the equivalent of what I think is going to happen. So you can see here, like pretty early on, it was given a signal that, things aren't great. Provided a pretty good turnaround signal there. Didn't even cross that 200, so there's a bit more to come. But yeah, once it started crossing below and pulling back, it's hard to be bullish when these things are turned down. So it does give a relatively early signal to come out as well. So just one to, I'm just going to keep on the charts, mainly to remind myself that it's there and it's a thing. And once we do sort of start to look like it's rolling over, I think this will give us a reasonable confirmation of that. So as you can see, the pullback that we've had didn't even get across of the two moving averages there. So this one here was just a bit of panicking around the carry trade unwind stuff. But again, nothing really to worry about. Back then, we were sort of looking at it as structurally, there's nothing really wrong with the market. And this was sort of giving the indication that, yeah, you probably don't have to be too worried yet. So at the moment, this is full out bullish. S&P 500, I think, will go on that run that everyone's been looking for, up to 6,000. And based on this, like increasing BBWP off the bottom, you got stochastic momentums in bullish control and still going to the upside. It looks like, new all-time highs are going to be a thing for a while yet. At least into the 6,000. I'd be surprised if it doesn't go a little bit further, to be honest. But yeah, we won't be really panicking until these things start to cross, I think. We might get some earlier indicators that it's going to happen, but I think this is very good at picking a bottom as well. All right. So yeah, S&P 500 smashed it on Friday. Yeah, and we didn't hit our box there. I'd probably actually get rid of that. I don't think that's going to come into play. I'll keep this trend line on here because I think that's probably going to be a critical one. A lot of people have that on their charts. You'll probably get the breakdown somewhere up around here. Got Qs. Qs obviously isn't going to new all-time highs yet, but I think it will. It's the same sort of deal. It's following the S&P. Still got a lot to run on the bullish smart money indicator. You know, nothing really. No real reason for this to shit the bed yet. RSP is making new all-time highs, so that's the equal weight. S&P 500. You know, everything's pretty well bullish across the board. It's coming off a very low BBWP as well. And it's actually got a lower stochastic momentum at the moment, even though it is turning up. So that is positive signs. Basically, I think we're going to have a pretty green week and probably a pretty green end to the year, to be honest, overall. War and things like that could be an issue, but I think they'll keep that under wraps until at least after the US election. Yeah, everything's IWM is probably going to be a pretty decent runner. Yeah, I'd be expecting new all-time highs on IWM, which, where are we? Somewhere in the 10% range from here. Whereas S&P 500 and stuff, probably 5%, depending on what happens, obviously. XLI is breaking out. So this was kind of a good indicator suggesting that we weren't in any trouble. It was definitely one of the things that I was using to say, well, things don't look as bad as what people are talking about. XLY, XLP, and that's been flat, but I'd expect this to turn up as well. If this starts dropping and the market's still going up, that's a pretty good indicator that we need to be very careful. And the reason we look at these is because Bitcoin is not necessarily, it doesn't track them very well. It is correlated sometimes, particularly through times of lots of upward momentum. But at the moment, it hasn't been real well correlated for the last 6 months or so. But I would expect Bitcoin to catch up now. It is affected by the liquidity side of things, and when the markets are going up and rates are coming down, that's going to be a pretty reasonable time for Bitcoin. So we never got that confirmation there, which is good. So KRE's obviously had a good Friday as well. Sorry, this is the banking ETF, regional banking. You want to see this keeping on running as well. If this turns over early and the rest of the market's still going, that's probably a good early exit sign as well. Home construction, flat, but a positive Friday. So this is an indicator that it'll be interesting to see if this works this time around. So we're looking for breaks below at 15.8 roughly. Call it 15. But yeah, whenever we've sort of broken below structure, it tends to correlate with a downside move incoming. And I would expect this break to be quite substantial. But for the time being, it hasn't yet. It's definitely pressuring that. And I mean, gold went on a run, didn't it? Yeah, so gold's actually bounced early. Interesting to see if this is where gold confirms. It's not a hugely strong signal. It looks like a couple of strong days, but fairly low volume for gold. We got here consumer sentiment. So consumer sentiment came in weak. PPI is, I'd call that negative. Like it's coming down. Retail sales have actually, they're coming out soon. So yeah, we'll see. Gold could just be recovering these vectors. That's kind of what you got to be mindful of here. Didn't have a vector candle there. I mean, it could go back up to this high. It could go to our 2700 that we've been talking about. But I'm not convinced by this yet. Put it that way. If it breaks to new highs, then yeah, okay. I'd actually expect more than 2700. In which case, this indicator is going to be interesting because DJI is traveling pretty well as well. So it had a good day, just not as good as gold. Okay. Hence why this one dropped. So we'll see how that plays out. VIX is coming down. Skew should have bounced, yeah. So skew's going along with the narrative. DAX is still going pretty well. We'll see how Chinese market goes today, see whether this is just a dead cat bounce or not. Still suspect it is, just based on where the momentum's at. Could be wrong, but certainly it'd be hard to take a long here, and it'd be probably pretty hard to take a short too, to be honest. This thing's going to be freaking quite wild, I think, for the time being. UK market can still suck a dick. The BBWP there is kind of not great on the Japanese market. I mean, it's strong-ish, but it probably needs to have a decent day today. We need to break this previous wick here. If it breaks that, then it probably does run up to this high here, up to the 42 mark. And look, it is in the bullish control zone. It's just, it could be time for just the US market to go on a run and leave everyone else behind for a little bit like Bitcoin does when it goes on a run. TLTs are still coming down, so probably just market expecting higher for longer again on interest rates. Yeah, the high yield bonds are going up, which is good. You want to see them traveling up with the market. And again, they're a good indicator that the pullback wasn't really huge. All we had, there's nothing to freak out about. If these are pulling back while the market's still going up, that's what you're worried about. Still uninverted. It's good. Actually be surprised if treasuries don't jump here. It might come back down to 91.5, but I think they're going to jump pretty soon. There was a lot of volume traded through here. Copper, it hit our buy zone, but geez, only just. It looks like it wants to go back up. So yeah, $4.80 is a decent target. Little surprised at that. I thought it would come down a little bit more, but gold already done. Silver going with it, which is good. Hopefully we can break out and silver properly starts running harder than gold. And US oils had a pretty flat day, really. I think just needed to build some energy to break through that 200 EMA on the daily. I suspect it will go. Wait and see. Dixie, oh, geez, it got close to the 200. But yeah, I expect Dixie to come back down at least into the 101.6-ish region, maybe 101.5. Potentially more, to be honest. Like, actually, yeah, 101.4 would be the first level. I would think it would look for a bounce. But I don't know whether it'll get it there. Aussie dollars turned around. Pretty smooth sort of pattern going on the Aussie here. It's following the momentum pretty well. I'd expect a decent run on the Aussie. At least up into the 70 cents range. Looks like Euro might have only just wanted the 200 EMA, not the 200 SMA. Still potentially a little bit to go, but Japanese yen is still struggling around that 200 EMA. So global liquidity is still kind of pulling back a little bit, which is interesting. You kind of want that moving up if you want Bitcoin to really go on a decent run. That's a little concerning, but not hugely. There's plenty of money sitting on the sidelines, which I think is going to be put to work in the next couple of weeks. Percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average. That's a big jump. We must have all been sitting around their 50 moving average recently, just waiting for the direction to be confirmed. After that, you'd kind of expect a 76 or higher, 86. If we're getting up into the 80s on this, then I'd be looking for signs of a rollover of the market. Mag 7 is still flat, which is not a bad thing. I mean, probably dragged down a bit by Tesla. Turns out it was a buy the rumor, sell the news, or sell the event. Yeah, their earnings is going to be pretty critical. They might actually drop into earnings even, and then bounce after that. I mean, you wouldn't think Elon would run a company that's losing money for too long without turning it around. Yeah, 184 I think is a pretty decent target for Tesla going into earnings. It was a pretty shit event, to be honest. I wasn't super impressed with what they brought out. Nvidia, it's broken out. Still haven't retested this. It could keep going. Apple, geez, Apple is struggling. Apple needs to have a pretty strong day, in which case I could consider this a retest of that breakout. Amazon. I mean, Amazon's strong. Meta's still strong, but it looks like it. I'd be expecting Meta to come back into this trend line. I think it's going to be the Russell that's probably going to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the economy. But in saying that, you kind of need some of the big guys to run too. Otherwise, the S&P 500 is not going to outperform either. So it could be a bit of a mixed bag amongst individual stocks. Airbnb, yeah, interesting to see if that breaks the 200 EMA. Pretty decent level is the 155 mark. SMCI, meh. You'd think SMCI is basing here if Nvidia goes on a run again. All right, let's have a quick look at the longs. So we haven't had a big flush like we have here yet. I honestly don't know that we will. It's looking more and more like we won't. The shorts are dropping off. No one's really shorting it too much around here, which may mean we see a little bit more downside. Typically, the shorts come off as Bitcoin's actually coming down. So have a quick look at ETH. Again, ETH tapped into this box, but would have liked to have come down a bit further. But anyway, is what it is. Still looking reasonably strong. BBWP hasn't really reset yet, but it's probably going to soon, I would think. Everything's primed for a decent move up at the moment. Where did CME closed out at? CME closed out at 63.3. I mean, it might gap down, but yeah, I honestly don't know that we'll get the 61.5 that I thought we might. It's a pretty solid level if we do. 61.5, sort of my maybe a tiny bit lower. 61.4 I think has a lot of liquidity in there, which I'll look at in a second. But we haven't actually started expanding BBWP yet either. So this is why I think this is a really strong level. If we don't drop back into the 61.5 and we actually break above probably even yesterday's high, say 63,500, if we do that, then I'd expect just we're gonna hit new all-time highs reasonably quickly, I think, because there has been some pretty strong support at that level, and if it leaves the liquidity that's there, which there's a fair bit of fair few liquidations down into that 61,500 level, and that's sort of confirmed here as well. So 61.7, there's 136 mil. That's pretty massive that amount has come in the last 2 days. You tend not to get that much come in so close to price action and have it not get taken before the move up. So a sweep is still on the cards, is what I'm saying. 61.4, 61.5, I think would make a lot of sense in a lot of ways. But man, seems to be a lot of support for it not doing that, because there is a lot of liquidity above as well. So again, that's your 63,500 there. I think that will, once that breaks, it'll actually keep going for a bit, at least into the 64. But there's a lot more up here as well. You just don't get it coming into this chart. So yeah, across the board, 61,500 is a target. I did have 61K as well as a potential target, but it's not as strong looking at the liquidity levels and stuff. I think a lot of people have sort of given up on purchasing at that point. I think these guys here are going to be very lucky if they get their order filled at 60K. I think it's going to move away from them. So there is a fair chunk of orders there around the 61.5 as well. So yeah, that's I think that's pretty much where everything's at the moment. Solana, I think, will go on a pretty decent run as well. Solana was interesting. It kind of gave us indication back here, like as it was coming out, that the fact that it turned around there without actually going back into that zone, that was a pretty good indicator that things were going to turn around. But by then, like, to get that bounce there, you already got this candle here. So I'd say it's just a confirmation that, yeah, we're going to follow through to the upside, I think. See, this is more what I expected Bitcoin to do, to be honest. Not playing the game. Maybe it's just too early. Maybe it'll have one more run down here before the end of the day, which is still 3.5 hours away. That can easily happen with Bitcoin. So let's go to, not that. Still working on this bot. I'm actually getting pretty close. I had one setup that was doing about 120% in 6 months, at about, I think it was 10x leverage and what was it? 10x leverage and about 7% max drawdown at that leverage. So I'm getting close. I just wasn't super happy with some of the stop loss or some of the exits. And to be honest with you, missing more of the big moves than what I would want to. So still fine tuning, but getting there. Yeah, look, on the shorter time frames, 15-minute, still kind of downtrending. So it's already recovered all these vector candles that it had on the way down. But I'm surprised it stopped there and didn't try and get into this vector candle here. And this is the thing, we've got this vector candle here, 61,467, this one at 61,384. I suspect that'll be the bottom before running higher if we get into that. It seems to want to hold this range at the moment, but I don't know, it kind of, there is actually a fair bit of momentum to the upside still here on the 15-minute. Certainly am not expecting this to come down. Yeah, it'd be a pretty big flip of a couple of these indicators at this point. So yeah, probably just retesting the 50 EMA and then off to the upside again, which brings that 3K level into play and potentially up to 63,166. I mean, if we're finishing there today, yeah, it's going to be close to you'd almost expect it to keep going. It'd basically be a doji, but you'd probably call it a hammer, to be honest. It'd be a very small hammer head, but yeah, look, shorter time frames for the time being are bullish. What's that? That's a 5-minute. It's kind of bearish on this particular indicator. Let's have a quick look at the 5-minute. Just that's a really strong sort of level for the 15-minute to get follow through. So 5-minute could be a bit flip-floppy. Yeah, the 5-minute, that white line pulling back, you kind of want that to actually start trending up again with the green line above. That's probably what will happen, I would say, if we keep going up. But again, even the 5-minute is actually still trending up momentum-wise. Missed this the other day too, but the Crypto Capital Enterprises indicator, it has signaled a strong buy. Obviously, that was a strong sell as well and didn't really play out too much, but this one here could be a pretty decent one because I think even if this price action came down to 61.5, it's still going to be bullish postured. So there's a lot of confirmation to the upside at the moment on a lot of different indicators. Actually, we just got a buy signal on the stacks indicator as well. Not that this is a great indicator. So yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty green week overall. It's just whether or not we get back to the 61.5. If we do, I would say it's probably going to have to be in the next day. Like the Aussie trading day, the Asian trading day, as in particular, we may actually see it come back down into that level and then bounce from there. That would make sense to me. Going just straight up from here doesn't make a lot of sense. without taking that liquidity. So yeah, I think yeah, 61. I think's the 61.5. I think's the play. Okie dokie. That'll do me for now. Maybe it is going to roll over here. 5 minutes starting to. Yeah, okay. I could be wrong there. Three minutes left of this candle. Yeah, okay. No, we could go back down. It's just the 15 minutes still postured to the upside. Kind of need this to roll over, which it might do actually. Not yet, but one more 15-minute candle to the downside, and I'd say that probably will start to trend down. All right, that'll do. Have a good week. Yeah, lots of upside this week, I think. If it does hit 61.5, I'll be getting out of any longs and starting to buy up, I would say. Unless, of course, something's signaling that we're going to keep going, but I don't see that happening. All right, catch you later.